Well, welcome back to the Old Iron Lover channel. My name is Bob, and this is going to be number 2 in the Odds and Ends series. And it's the focus of it's going to be on a surface grinder and all the accessories and things that got to go with it, and a few other odds and ends as well. So the surface grinder and some of the other things were acquired at a machinery auction, and the surface plate and some of the other accessories were purchased at a guy's machine shop that is kind of idle, not too far from the auction actually, so only a couple of miles away. And then there's a few other things too. So anyway, hope you enjoy it, and let's get on with it. Well, this is the new surface grinder. It's a Harig Super 612. It's a manual grinder. Got Teflon ways, and what else can I tell you about it? It's got a magnetic manual or a permanent magnet chuck, and it's in really decent shape. The paint's not so good, but everything else on it it looks like it's pretty solid. The oiling system is a recirculating oiling system. You can see up at the top of the column there's a little sight glass, so you can see that the oil is actually circulating. And I've played around with it a little bit. I have a lot to learn yet, and we'll probably go through that learning cycle together. The surface grinder came with a couple of dozen wheels, and so I made a little rack for it, mounted it up on my new wall. And the surface grinder came with some wheel dressing tools. This is an adjustable one that can swivel 2 different planes, 2 different joints anyway. Came with a stationary one that I can either use on the side of the wheel or the edge of the wheel. And it came with a little flat one that in case you're already cranked down pretty far, you don't have to crank it way up to use one of the others. You can get right on it with this little one. So in addition to that, I bought some things not at the auction where I got the surface grinder, but up the road a piece there was a guy that had some stuff for sale. So first thing is a couple of round and sharp magnetic parallels. And then there's I don't know, these I suspect are Taiwanese sort of things, but they should work fine. A couple of magnetic V blocks. And another set of parallels. Put those out of the way. Then the next thing is a Standridge grinding vise, machinist vise. It's a Standridge 581. Really clean condition. There we go. And next item is a Meditoyo. It's a sign block machine vise. And turn it around that way. It's adjustable like so. Again, in really good condition. Next thing is something I got off of eBay. I've always wanted a very accurate level. This is a Standridge Master Precision level. It's good to, each division on it, it's good to half a thousandth in a foot, and it's looks to be in pretty good shape. I did, when I got it, I did check it for adjustment, and it was quite a ways out, so I brought it back end, or it's just as close as I could get it. It's hardly noticeable, the difference between the level one way and reversing it the level the other way. So anyway, we get on to something else here. And the other thing I acquired to go with the surface grinder was a surface plate. It's a 24 by 36 inch, 4-inch thick Standridge plate. Came with the stand, and it got a really nice deal on it. And I've got a little bit of information later on about the calibration of it. And I also made a, because I didn't want to use it for a bench, and it's a flat spot, so it's going to get used for a bench if I'm not careful. So I built a cover for it. Basically, this is way too heavy duty. It's got a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and then a frame that sits right underneath the edge of the plywood. And the frame rests on the corners, the steel corners of the stand. And there's a couple little angle plate, or there's an angle plate in each corner to for the actual metal to ride on, so the frame isn't digging into the wood. Then there's this is a 1x4. This is a 1x6 around the outside of it to trim it out. And there's because this is a pretty ugly piece of plywood, I put a piece of 1/2 inch sanded plywood on top. And so the whole thing is real heavy. So I'll probably have to do something later on to lighten it up. I may put some slots in the sides of it, so on. So anyway, it's designed so that the trim piece on the outside goes over the outside of the angle on the surface grinder, or the surface plate stand, and kind of puts it in place. And it's also built so the height from these angles to the bottom of the plywood top is higher than from the top of the angle of the frame to the top of the plate. So there's a gap between the top of the plate and the bottom of this. If anything got in there, some kind of grit or something, I don't have the plywood picking it up and sliding it around and acting like a lapping plate. So anyway, not very good woodwork, but that's not what I do. So, well, I've been working on getting things tuned up, ready to do surface grinding and getting the surface plate in shape. Dave from Washington Calibration just left, and he finished calibrating my 2x3 foot granite plate. I'm very, very, very pleased with the results. It actually, by the numbers, is within, it's a AA plate, other than the thickness isn't adequate. This needs to be a 6-inch plate to be a AA. So it's technically an A plate, but repeatability is 40 millionths of an inch. Pretty good. There's the certification. Very nice job. And then in the bargain, I also got my little 9x12 inch surface plate done. There was a bunch of these that came out several years ago. One of the chain woodworking places had them for, I assume, for lapping or chisels and things. And they were like 20 bucks. And just had this one calibrated. Didn't cost much to get it done. And it is also within A standards. Actually, probably, if there was such a thing as a AA for a small plate like this, it'd be within that. The actual measurement repeatability was within 20 millionths of an inch. Another item that we've acquired is actually belongs to my son, but he brought it over here to have a place to put it and work with it. It's a little ANET A8 3D printer. And it's not a very expensive thing, and it actually does a pretty good job. And I made a little project with it just to test it out, and I'll show that to you in a bit. It's just a quick look at a 3D printing project I got in the works here. It's just a V-block for my Kurt Vise, so I can hold large round objects comfortably. Printing it with an ANET A8 3D printer using a Fusion 360 to develop the shape and send it off to the slicing software, and then from there to this printer. This thing looks like it'll take quite a while to complete, so we'll just let it sit and run. Okay, as I mentioned, I had one little project just to try out the 3D printer, and I just made myself a little sort of a V-jaw for the Kurt Vise. So when I have something big and round I want to put in there, I can just drop this in as a soft jaw on one side, give me a couple points of contact on it, something of big diameter. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the little odds and ends video, and there'll be another video coming on the surface grinder itself, and it really relates to what I did to get it set up, and you know, and it's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. So any mistakes I make, I won't dwell on them, but I'll show them. And the setup and rewiring it, the wiring on it was roached, so I had to replace it also. Also, as I'm learning to use the grinder, I'll make some mistakes, and without being too redundant, I'll try and show a few of those. It looks like there's an opportunity to make lots of them. So. Anyway, till the next video comes out, happy trails.